want a story about the craziest journal? I will tell you. This is the story about a very special journal that was found on an antique shop where they sold things that perhaps had been abandoned by people when they passed, and they left their bodies to die, but their possessions still may have some value. So sometimes they would be sold in places like this where they sell old furniture, perhaps a book that has been in a family for a long time. But in this case, it was just a journal with nothing written on it. However, its binding seemed very peculiar, intriguing, I might say, made in leather and completely carved by hand with interesting and seemingly ancient glyphs and pictures. Perhaps it could have some sentimental value, or perhaps even archaeological value for science. Who knows? The thing is, it went to an auction, and as part of a set of things from the mansion of the last descendant of an old lineage of magicians. But the person that bought it didn't know this. He just bought it as a lot of ancient things to sell on his shop. And the notebook was one of those things from his shop. It happened one day, not too many years, too long ago, that our character entered the shop, looking perhaps for some memory lost, looking perhaps for some ancient thing that would look well in his home, when something strange caught the side of his eye. He turned his gaze and saw the notebook and said, "I had to have this notebook. It's so beautiful." He asked the shop owner how much he wanted for it. He said, "Well, this is a very unique design. It's from a famous artist. I guess $1,000 would be all right." The person left and said, "I'll give you $1,000 if you can tell me who the famous artist that did this drawing was." The shop owner was embarrassed. He was caught on his selling spiel, which was of course a lie. He laughed. He said, "Well, you caught me, but it is beautiful. I mean, don't you think it's worth something?" And the person said, "Oh, okay, I'll give you $100. How about you make it 150 and we call it a day?" 120 cent. Deal. And he bought the note for $120. When he went home, he looked at it for a while. It looked perfect on his night table. And he thought, "I guess I'm going to leave it here." He was a perfectionist. He liked everything to look just right. Turns out that day he went back to work, not thinking much about life or what would happen to him. And he got really bad news at work. He was fired. He had been working for that company for 20 years. He had nowhere else to go, and he really didn't have any other way of generating income at the time. His situation was terrible. He went home. He was thinking about all this. He was thinking what could he do and how he was going to organize his life. He was not going to have a job for a while. All right, he needed to make a note, a list of things. Yes, I need to get organized to be able to get a job. And so he grabbed a pen, and without even thinking, he sat at the table, opened the notebook, didn't realize that this was a very ancient notebook, in order to start writing what he needed to do. And what he saw on the first page shocked him. It had the day of today, and it said, "You will be fired from your job, but worry not. Where one door closes, another one opens." And he thought, that's not possible. It's like this notebook knew about my future. That's not possible. And so he flipped the page and had the date of tomorrow. And it said, "Tomorrow, as you go for a job interview, you will meet the love of your life." What? That is crazy, he thought to himself as the phone rang. Hey, uh, is this Robert? Yes, said Robert. Oh, I'm glad I found you. We got your resume that you sent 6 months ago, and unfortunately, we did not have a position open for you at the time. But would you like to come over for an interview and uh, to see if you would be a good fit for the role of president? And Robert said, absolutely. I'll be there tomorrow. What time? 3 p.m. Okay. The next day, when he went there, uh, the person that interviewed him was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. She could tell they both liked each other a lot. And for he was so lucky to have been interviewed by this girl that he was sure he was going to get the job. And then he realized what was going on. The notebook, it had predicted the future. He saw that. He saw that he would meet the love of his life, and that when a door closed, another one would open. He got fired from a job. He got a new job the next day. Well, at least he thought he would. And so he rushed back home to look at the next page of the notebook. It said, a terrible accident. What? That's it? And when he saw further, all the pages were blank. What's this? Am I going to have a terrible accident? Is somebody else going to have a terrible accident? What's going on? He was freaking out. And so he decided to not go anywhere because he did not want to have a terrible accident. But the book didn't say when. It could be tomorrow. It could be 10 years from now. This was terrible. What's going to happen? And so he decided not to go outside. He didn't want to have a terrible accident. He lost when he was called to go on the job for the first time. He said, hey, you got the job. You can come work with us. You will be the president. And he was so scared that he would have a terrible accident going to work or maybe at work that he said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And he lost the job. They gave it to someone else. And then he remembered this beautiful girl, but she didn't want to take his calls because she was the one that had vouched for him and had said, I think he will be the best guy for the job. And then he rejected the job, so she didn't want to talk to him either. So she lost the girl, and he lost the job, and he didn't want to go out from his home. And soon money was starting to run out, and food too. He was in such terrible condition. He didn't know what to do, and so he figured, I have to make a list of the things that I have so I can understand what my terrible accident is going to be or what's going to happen. And when he opened the notebook, he read the page where it said a terrible accident, and now it was complete. It said a terrible accident that you will let fear control you and lock you down, and you will lose all your opportunities because fear has taken command. And he started crying, and he realized what had happened. It had been him. The terrible accident had been him giving way to fear. Fear of an unknown, fear of an accident, or whatever it would mean. And the accident was fear himself. And that's how he learned a huge, valuable lesson. He closed the notebook, the most incredible, the strangest notebook ever, and he vowed never to open it again, to allow for life to be always a mystery. The end.